Princess Anne's got quite a lot of character in her face.
Sculptor Francis Segelman-Petchy is making a bust to mark the princess's 70th birthday. She's done most of the royal family.
She's coming for a second sitting. I'd love her to have a tiara. I'm going to try and persuade her today. Good morning. Lovely to meet you again. Thank you for coming. I did the sculpture of your mother in 2008.
2008?
Your father in 2000. Boris.
Hairdo is tricky.
The princess must now be centre of attention, not something she enjoys. Caroline Nunnally is a lady-in-waiting. Her job? Anticipating the boss's needs. Right now, it's probably escape.
Goldfish in a bowl here.
Francis bravely tries the T word.
So we were going to talk about the tiara.
Go away.
Yeah.
I thought I'd said no.
I know, but I just think it would look so fabulous if you did.
Yeah, but I've only got little tiny tiaras. They're not really worth it.
Can we just make it so nice? You could think about it again. Yeah? If you do wear a tiara, will the back still be the same?
To be honest, if I'm wearing a tiara, I do my hair differently.
It's probably a no. But there is another type of crown to discuss.
I want people to like us, to feel that they know us. I know you value your privacy, but I think there's a lot about you that they would like if they got a chance. The fact that you're good value for money.
Like a pair of long-lasting boots.
Actually, I read an article the other day about I don't watch Netflix and The Crown, but
no.
The actress was talking about how long it took them to do their hair like I did.
Really?
I'm thinking, how could you possibly take that long? I mean, it takes me 10 or 15 minutes.
You do it yourself?
Why do I do it?
Do you do it yourself?
Because it's so much quicker.
I know.
Of the idea that they're taking that long. Don't you think I did that every day? I don't think so.
Oh, amazing.
The early ones were quite interesting.
When your mum was young?
Making series about people who are still living is always quite a dangerous thing to do, I think.
The television princess wasn't interested in celebrity. Not unlike the real one.
She's not a person that is constantly looking for praise. She gets on and does her work regardless because she thinks it's important.
Anne doesn't crave the limelight. She probably had her fill of being in the newspapers when she was young, so there's a lot of things that she does under the radar.
There were no tears when Princess Anne was first captured on film in September 1950.
It's an occasion when we would all wish to share their joy and pride.
Anne was a new princess for a new age, the media age. She grew up surrounded by cameras in public and at home. Both the princess's parents were keen home filmmakers. When he was 6, the Earl of Caithness was invited to Balmoral playdates with the 5-year-old princess.
I was very fortunate to know Princess Anne. She was always a lot of fun. She was a very determined person. She was not going to get beaten by a situation or by somebody, and if somebody could do something, she could do it too. She was a very imaginative child and curious about everything that happened. So she was curious about the environment. And of course the Duke was very keen on the environment, so he was passing that knowledge and interest on to his children too.
She also was brought up by her father to sail in dinghies and developed a love of sailing. Almost her earliest memory is going on board the Royal Yacht Britannia.
The Duke of Edinburgh just got on with things, didn't suffer fools gladly, and I think it's fair to say that the princess has many of her father's characteristics.
The Duke of Edinburgh's home movies capture determination and perhaps more in the child who would become the Princess Royal.
She was more determined than most, more competitive than most, and that was a lovely streak in her.
Anne and her brother Charles were first educated together at Buckingham Palace by Miss Catherine Peebles.
The school days was governess driven, so the range of what you can do is quite limited. My basic skills were okay, but we won't go further than that. And I did more French than most people did, but no maths and no Latin.
A new term at Benenden School.
When she was 12, Anne took the initiative and asked her mother if she could go to school outside the palace, the first princess to do so.
I did volunteer to go to school, I have to say, and I was thrilled. School was much more interesting.
Now she'll live and learn with 300 other girls and be treated, at the Queen's request, exactly the same as any other girl.
This was a new experience, the first time she'd mixed with large groups of other children.
Did you feel you were treated as like one of the girls? Or
You'd have to ask the other girls that. I thought so.
One of them was classmate Sandra Hacking, already part of a tight friendship group. For 6 years, they'd share the princess's hopes, dreams, and secrets.
We were given encouragement to be as natural as possible with the princess. The perception was that the princess might be quite shy, but we had this group of friends, and the princess just rocked up and joined in.
For me, of course, it was education at a different level, and the fact that you were doing it with a group of people, I was amazed how much I enjoyed it. And I got on very well with our headmistress, Miss E.B. Clark, but most people were terrified of her. We used to have quite interesting conversations, and she was fascinating. It didn't happen all that often, but I was always intrigued by what people were so frightened of.
Perhaps the head was on best behaviour with a pupil who had her own policeman.
There was a really lovely security officer, and we did lead him a bit of a dance. It was rather fun to break out of school and go to the fish and chip shop and trying to escape this loyal detective who was supposed to be looking after her. And anyway, we did that a few times. She was a very normal teenager. She was sensible and fun.
Scotland Yard had help. Anne's classmates also kept an eye on her.
There was possibly a general instruction not to talk to the press. The paparazzi did exist then. I don't recall intrusion at school, but on the public road they were quite keen to photograph her. So there was a sense of looking after her.
After A-levels, many went on to further education. The princess went into the family business.
So many of my contemporaries, when asked why they were going to university, would say, well, because that's what you do. And I'm thinking, that's not a very good reason for going to university, so I thought I'd skip that. But I also thought that I might have the opportunity to travel with Her Majesty on her tours. I did geography A-level, so for me it made more sense.
Shortly before her 19th birthday, the princess joined her parents on a state visit to Austria. It was the start of a lifelong career representing the country abroad. On early trips, the princess was learning the ropes.
People talk about being trained to become a member of the royal family. I'm sorry to disappoint you, there is no such thing. It's just learning by experience. But it's hardly ever does anything go quite according to plan. You have to learn that. One that sticks in my mind about going up in lifts, and there was the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh and Lady-in-Waiting and me. I think we were all dressed for quite a smart do somewhere. And we went from the ground floor. We were only supposed to be going 2 stories. And it went up to about the 19th floor, and this chap got in thinking he was going for a spa treatment. He was slightly surprised.
In Australia in 1970, the princess tried out a new approach to royal visits that Fleet Street dubbed the walkabout.
I picked a young woman who I thought was sort of my age, and she looked at me and she said, we met before. And I'd never been to Australia before, I'd never done a walkabout before, and I thought, don't be ridiculous. And she said, I was the floor maid in Malta when you came. So you learn. This is a small world.
At the time Princess Anne came of age, whatever the young did was news, and whatever young royals did was big news. Today they're celebrities, like it or not, but Anne was the pioneer.
The pressure that is applied to the younger members of the family is always worse, because that's what the media is interested in, and that's hard sometimes to deal with. But there was no social media in my day, so it probably has made it more difficult.
I know there are lots of younger royals who are very glamorous, but she was a very modern princess.
In the relatively short time that Anne has been a grown-up, fashion-conscious young lady, she's made herself a name for her choice of hats.
She was actually rather glamorous, and the long hair, and she was very much of her time. She's the first princess to wear a miniskirt. Different looks go in and out of fashion. She's not ahead of it, but she's definitely in there.
And she was on the cover. For her 21st birthday, there was a landmark portrait.
Well, to be on the cover of Vogue in 1971, I mean, the Vogue cover is for extraordinary women, and she was very much her own person, not her mother or her aunt.
Princess Anne hit Planet Fashion for 6. Her public wardrobe was bold and blocky. She favoured bright colours and big hats.
She's actually really fashionable as a young woman, and she's sort of her own person within those parameters.
The princess turned her visibility to good use, backing the textile and fashion industries. Tonight, she's at London Fashion Week to present a design award.
So the princess has been our president since 1985. In the 60s and 70s, she was known for her very lively interest in fashion. And the princess has an eye. I'm sure she wouldn't mind me saying this. She has her preferences on colours. I mean, we see green quite a lot, natural colours.
In the 80s, she started to wear on public occasions the suit, of course, emblematic of the working woman. She also wears those suits again and again, as a normal woman would. That's made her be recently hailed as an icon of sustainability.
I'm probably the very last person to make any comment about fashion, and any husband who makes a comment on his wife's fashion style is a very brave or risky man. What I would say is that she has developed a style of her own, and she sticks to it. She's not driven by others to do something that doesn't suit her.
Back in the 1970s, if the world's most eligible princess was seen anywhere near a bachelor, it made for banner headlines. Captain Mark Phillips was a rising star in the equestrian world. He met his princess at an Olympic party in 1968. 3 years later, the press got their story.
After weeks of rumours, speculation and denials, finally, it's official.
Neither the princess nor her fiancé wanted the attention, but their celebrity fueled royal wedding fever. In November 1973, the ceremony was a major television event.
There'd never been anything like it in terms of television spectacle, probably since the coronation, which was on tiny black and white sets.
500 million people watched around the world.
With this ring, I thee wed.
With this ring, I thee wed.
The wedding made the princess and her new husband the most famous couple on earth. It also made them targets.